Hi everyone, so today we're going to learn the rose stitch. This one has got a few different names, so it's sometimes called the woven wheel or the woven rose or wagon wheel. Someone said they called it spider stitch, so all different names for this one. So what I've done to start with is I've just stitched these 5 spokes here just with 6 strands of cotton. So these 5 here just with a straight stitch. So it's quite important with this stitch that you don't run out of cotton when you're doing the actual woven part. So it's best to always cut a really long piece of stranded cotton for this one, and then obviously anything left over you keep. So I've got about 1.5 meters here, and I folded it in half, and I've got my needle on one end and I've got my knot tied in the other end. So you're going to come up next to one of these spokes. It doesn't matter where you come up, you're going to come up sort of in one of these sort of triangle shapes, quite close to the middle. So say start anywhere you like. So come up through the back of the fabric with your doubled over stranded cotton. It doesn't have to be doubled over, it just sort of makes it thicker and makes it take slightly less time to do this stitch. So I've come up at the centre there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to weave in and out of all these spokes. So you're going to go over the top of one and underneath the next one, and then sort of carry on with that. So the cotton is going to go over the top of this spoke here. So it's going to go underneath this next one. And I like to use the blunt end of my needle when I'm going underneath. You don't have to, but I just find that it sort of digs in less than using the sharp side. So I'm going to use the blunt end of my needle and go underneath that spoke. Sorry, try and keep my hands out of the way. So you're going to go underneath the spoke like that and pull through. Oops, sorry. And then you're going to do the same thing. So you've gone underneath this one. So you're going to go over the top of this one and underneath this next one. So thread underneath, like that, and pull through. And then you're just going to keep working your way around, so over the top of one, underneath the next one. And that will slowly build up your rose stitch. And I love this stitch because it adds so much sort of texture and height to your embroidery work. So it's definitely one of my favourite stitches. So that's how it's looking so far. And then, as I say, just keep going with that process. Takes a little bit of time, but that's fine. And just make sure that when you're pulling through, especially as you get to the outer edge of the rose, you're not pulling the cotton too hard, you're just sort of pulling it sort of gently into place. And if you pull it too hard, obviously then the rest of the rose will be affected, and it will start to sort of pull all those stitches out of place. So just start to pull it really gently as you get towards the outer edge of the rose. And then you're going to keep going until your circle is filled up. So basically until the pattern is kind of covered and you've reached the outer edge of your circle. So as you get to the outside, it can be a little bit trickier to see the spokes. So you might have to sort of get a bit up close, turn it on its side slightly. You can push up from underneath, use your fingers to push up if the spokes are kind of hard to sort of see or hard to get to. So I'm going to do that here, sort of push up. And then, as I say, just stop once you're happy with the size and shape of your rose. And then once you feel like your rose is finished, all you're going to do is thread back down through the fabric. So you can go back down right sort of where your cotton is sort of finishing on the last spoke, or you can kind of create one last sort of petal by going a little bit further away. You can also tuck, you can see, tuck the needle underneath the rose slightly as well. And again, just pull through quite gently so that you're not affecting the shape of the rose. There you go, and that's the rose stitch. And I think it's one that looks sort of really difficult to do, but obviously it's not tricky to do at all. It's really simple. It had such nice height and texture to your work. So yeah, definitely one of my favourite stitches. So then you can use different colours to do these ones. And these ones in this centre here, you're going to fill with French knots first, and then stitch these spokes and then just do the weaving in exactly the same way. So whatever cotton you've got left, definitely don't waste it, because you might have quite a bit left. So just cut off at the back, tie off as usual, and then just save any leftover cotton. So I've done some French knots in the middle of this one here, and I've just used 6 strands of cotton, and I've just wrapped around my needle once, and then again I've just stitched these 5 spokes just using a simple straight stitch. And then again I've got a fairly long length of cotton doubled over. I haven't used quite as much as I did with the pink, because obviously you're not weaving quite as much because the centre's already filled. So you're just going to do the same thing. You're going to come up next to any of the spokes, and then you're just going to do the same thing, going over the top of one spoke underneath the next. And again, just sort of pulling fairly gently, especially with this one, because if you pull too firmly then it will start to cover the French knots in the centre, so we don't want that. So just pull fairly gently and keep weaving in and out. And again, you may need to push up from the back to kind of help you get underneath the spokes a little bit easier. And then just carry on in exactly the same way until you've filled up the circle. So I've filled up that rose and I'm happy with the shape. So I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. Just going to thread back down through the fabric, kind of just going a little bit away just to create sort of one last petal, and then just angling my needle slightly underneath the rose, just so it's kind of hidden where you've gone back down through the fabric. And there you go, that's the rose stitch.